What's up, guys? Eli again. I literally just found out tonight that my phone has a max limit of how long a video can be. I wouldn't know that because I've never hit that before. It might have been 40 minutes. I don't know. Apparently, this video is way too long, but this is an unplanned part 2 of the video that I was doing before. And in that video, I was talking about Judas Priest Jugulator. I think it's fucking awesome. I think almost every older fan of Judas Priest, 95% of them, I think, hate this, and I fully fucking disagree. I think this album is great. I never understood the hate for it. I still love it to this day. I started talking about it in my last video, so if you didn't watch that video and you want to hear more of what I said about it, skip to the end. If you didn't, whatever. Had I known that my phone had a limit for videos, I would have split this up into 2 parts, and I should have, but I didn't. So this second part's going to be really short. It's going to be probably 5 minutes long. How fucking stupid. But anyways, I'm going to keep going. I only have like 5 albums to talk about in this part 2 of that video. Here's one that I really would love to talk about. This album, I remember in fucking Decibel magazine, a magazine who praised this band for the most part, if I remember correctly, or heavily praised them, gave this, when it came out, they gave this a really low score. They gave it like a 0 or a 1, which was fucking ridiculous. I've seen them slander albums, just completely slaughter albums, and at least give them like a 3 or a 4. They gave this album, like I said, like a 0 or a 1, or something like that. Fucking retarded. I think that was like the point where I stopped reading that stupid magazine anyways. Hold on, I'm drinking my beer still. Almost done. If you didn't watch the last video, you don't know what I'm talking about. I was drinking this in the last video. Yeah, whatever. Finished it. Alright, I'm talking about The Devil's Blood. This is their final album entitled 3, Tabula Rasa, or Death and the 7 Pillars. If you have no idea what I just said, read it. If you don't know how to read, I don't know what to tell you. This was the final album from The Devil's Blood. If you don't know a whole lot about The Devil's Blood, their guitarist and main songwriter committed suicide before the release of this album. Metal Blade Records released it. It was an unfinished album. It's almost like a demo. It was unfinished. They basically kind of just... They were working on the album when he killed himself. They just kind of wrapped it together. And, press releases were made. This was an unfinished album, and it was supposed to be looked at as an unfinished album. The production, not the greatest. It's probably not fully fleshed out. This is probably not the album that it would have been had they finished... Had they finished it, had they put out, the way that it would have been intended to be put out. Anyways, they put it out probably just because I think that's what he would have wanted. So this is the last material you'll hear of The Devil's Blood. I don't know how most of the fans feel. I just know that, like I said, Decibel magazine, pretty popular magazine, gave it a ridiculously low score. They did not have one good thing to say about this album. If you haven't heard The Devil's Blood, they're kind of like, they're kind of one of those, occult rock bands that, became popular in the last 10 years or whatever. But out of all those bands, I think they did the best. I saw them live. They were absolutely killer. And this album is really fucking good. I don't know. It does not deserve, it doesn't deserve the shit that it got. To me, it pretty much sounds like classic Devil's Blood. Like I said, maybe a little bit undeveloped. But, to say good things about this album, it was showcasing kind of, the band was going maybe in a little bit of a different direction. This album is, it's a little bit more progressive. It has like, I don't know what to compare it to, but it's just the songwriting, the structures, they were getting, I think, a little bit more complicated, more progressive. Had he not killed himself, I think the band could have done some really, really cool shit. I don't know. I really would have liked to have heard more. I wish he hadn't killed himself. And this album, yeah, needless to say, massively underrated. It honestly gets me kind of angry. It pisses me off when I don't know, when I think about that decibel. I should have wrote them an email, man. Not that they would have read it, but when I think about that decibel review, fucking horse shit. Fuck those guys. Don't read decibel. Bunch of fucking assholes. They don't know what they're talking about. Some of them, some of the reviewers are okay, but some of them are just pretentious motherfuckers. Next up, this is probably an album that most metalheads like. At least the ones that have fucking heard it. Not nearly enough. Band in question is Decapitator. The album, The Storm Before the Calm, came out on Relapse Records in, less than 10 years ago. If you don't know Decapitator, they are a thrash band. I don't know all the members. I don't remember all the members that were involved, but most notable, Matt Harvey from Exhumed. Decapitator put out, I think this is their second album. They've only put out 2 albums, I believe. This is the best of the 2. It kind of came out in that whole thrash resurgence heyday, like the mid 2000s. And honestly, I mean, I'm a big thrash fan. 90% of those bands did nothing for me. I believe this is a pinnacle of thrash from that era. I mean, this is actually, to be honest, this is one of my favorite thrash albums of all time. Very overlooked. The songwriting here is killer. The riffs are killer. The vocals are killer. The songs are killer. I can't say enough good things about this album. This is probably, honestly, this is probably my favorite thrash album in the last 15 or 20 years. Top 3, at least. If you haven't heard Decapitator, if you're a thrash fan, go look into it. I don't know why I haven't heard more people talk about it. It kind of bothers me, to be honest. Maybe it's just me, but I fucking love this album. If you like Exodus, if you like old thrash, honestly, this doesn't sound like thrash played by 19-year-olds, because it's not thrash played by 19-year-olds. I mean, all these guys, even at this time, were in their probably mid to late 30s. I mean, they know what they're doing. They knew what they were doing. I'd really, really fucking love to hear a new album from them. I remember I talked to Matt Harvey once, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and he said he'd really like to do another Decapitator album, but I think he's been pretty busy with Exhumed. They've been pretty, I don't know, they've been consistent lately, so I don't know, maybe he doesn't have the time. But I hope he does a follow-up to that at some point. Whenever. It'd be cool. Next, here's an album that, I mean, as far as this album was commercially successful, I think this album sold more records than anything this band ever did. Yet, I think it's pretty overlooked and probably not very well liked by most extreme metal fans, or, metal fans in general. Anthrax, Sound of White Noise. I don't even know how to tackle this. I got into Anthrax pretty young, in my teens. This was one of the first... I went through a pretty big thrash phase. I mean, not really a phase. I got into thrash, and I never got out of it. I've loved it ever since. But anyways, I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was really, really into thrash, and it was my introduction to more extreme music, as it was for, most of us. I didn't know about death metal much, or black metal yet. Thrash was the most extreme shit to me. I didn't know any better, or any different. Yes, I did hear this album at a fairly young age, and had I heard it in my 30s, or even late 20s, maybe I wouldn't feel, the same about it. This album, it went gold. It went gold. It sold more copies than anything they've ever done. It's not a thrash album. It definitely sounds like a band trying to remain relevant. It's got a lot of, I don't know, maybe grunge influences. There's some shit on here that kind of sounds like Alice in Chains. Sounds like nothing they've ever done. This was the first album to feature John Bush of Armored Saints. Joey Belladonna was gone. Yeah, it doesn't really fit in their discography, and I don't know, I think a lot of people probably the more diehard thrash fans, probably wrote it off as a piece of shit, as a sellout album, and I get that, but, man, I don't know, I think the songwriting here is good. I think it's on point. It's not just an album trying, or it's not just a band trying to remain relevant. It's not a band trying to sell out. I mean, yeah, in a way they were trying to remain relevant, as were a lot of bands at this time. This came out in '93. Thrash was pretty much dead. Some bands were still playing thrash, of course. A lot of bands never stopped, but a lot of bands did stop. You know, thrash, it was no longer, you know, thrash records weren't selling. If you were on a major label and you wanted to stay on a major label, you shifted directions. That's just fact of the matter. And yeah, I think it's a strong album with great songwriting, and I love it, man. I love it. Next up, here's one that I kind of thought about leaving off this list because I think it's probably well liked by more people than not, but I still, even still, I feel like it's a little underrated and a little underappreciated, even if it's just a little. It's an album I feel very strongly about in general. King Diamond, The Eye. I guess pretty much the reason why I brought this one on here, Road Racer. I brought this one on here because this is my personal favorite album from King Diamond, and I don't see many people say that. I guess that maybe I'm just, you know, maybe I'm just, you know, a little bit irritated that it's not many people's favorite, but I think it deserves to be. I've talked to a lot of people that like King Diamond, and a lot of them think it's more middle of the road. You know, it's better than a lot of their stuff, but it's not as good as their first couple of releases, and I totally disagree. I think this album is every bit as good as anything they ever did, including the first album, or the first 3 or 4. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just thought this album had a little bit, to me it stands out. It's got a different atmosphere. I really like the story. The songwriting, I feel like it's a little bit more aggressive at times, a little more heavy. There's a lot of atmosphere on here, and I don't know, man. I don't know if it's just me. I think it's the best King Diamond album. I love everything King's ever done. I mean, some albums more than others, but I don't know. It's just my pick. It's my pick out of them all, and I feel like not that many people feel that way, and I don't really understand why. One left. Had this been one video, it would have been like 45 or 50 fucking minutes. I should have made it 2 videos. It is 2 videos, but I should have planned it as 2 videos. Alright, one left, man, and I'm really fucking tired. I'm kind of droning on at this point. This is a weird pick. A lot of these are weird picks, but this one's, for me, a really weird pick. And this is going to be This one's going to be the self-titled album from Journey. I don't know, half the reason I'm putting this on here is because I grew up listening to Journey. I listened to, like, the Steve Perry, the pop era Journey, and I thought that, for the longest time, I thought that was Journey. I thought that's all Journey was. It was just a very fucking poppy stadium rock band. I did not know that they had a couple albums before Steve Perry was ever in the band with a different singer, and they were like a progressive rock band. I guess that's why I'm talking about this. I only got this album like 2 or 3 years ago. I really dig it. I mean, there's some stuff on here that sounds more like Rush than like something off of Escape, or, you know, something Journey did later on. I simply did not know this era of Journey existed. They should have never gone in the pop rock direction. They should have stayed in this direction, playing real fucking music. I mean, I'll admit, I like some of Journey's poppier stuff. Probably because I listened to it when I was a kid. I didn't know any better. But yeah, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm just blown away that I didn't know Journey were a prog rock band. Most of you guys probably do, and this is no news. You're probably thinking, what are you even talking about? But I don't know. I also feel like a lot of people know Journey for, you know, their poppy rock stuff and not for the proggy rock stuff that they did early on, and that's retarded. I don't know. I feel like their first couple albums should be a little bit more respected and a little bit better known. I guess that's why I'm talking about it. It's a good album. It's a good album. If this is not the Journey. If you've never heard this album, this is not the Journey that you know. So go check it out. I'm done. I'm fucking done. Yeah. Leave me comments. I'm sure a lot of you will have a lot to say. It was kind of a weird video, a really weird response video to Pat's Ground Zero Salem, to his original video. But yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff for you guys to comment about. I don't care if you agree with me or disagree. You know, there's nothing wrong with disagreeing about somebody if you do it the right way. So let me know how you feel. That's a lot of albums I brought up, so talk about any of them. Thanks for commenting, subscribing. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk soon. Cheers.